Ba-bum-bum. Oh, I almost got it. We are live. Welcome, guys, to episode 31 of the Weekly.
You just forgot where you were for a minute there?
Yeah, for a second. Thank you for joining us. This week, we have just quite a few topics, but I figured we have quite a bit to delve in. And I wanted to start off with, the one that we got a pause for a day and we knew was coming. We've talked about this for a while. Is Google has put in some investment into HTC. Well, it's interesting, and I find it personally interesting because the day before, HTC stopped trading its stock in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Which to me is a bad sign, no matter how you look at it. I just don't like that idea.
It's a bad omen. Yeah.
Yes. But the next day, they had a joint announcement with Google stating that Google was cherry picking and basically buying the Pixel team, or at least taking people from the Pixel team for $1.1 billion, allowing HTC to still make devices, cash infusion, however you like to see it. But I want to get your thoughts first, because I have very negative thoughts to this whole deal, especially on the HTC side.
I don't have negative thoughts, but I bet you and I are probably going to share similar sentiment as to what this ultimately will mean if we're talking the long-term outlay for HTC. Because my feelings are, well, first of all, I mean, just to detail the deal, for $1.1 billion, they get a non-exclusive licensing agreement with Google, where Google can use all of HTC's IP. They're getting roughly half of the company's smartphone workforce.
How many? So, 4,000.
So they've got around 4,000 engineers, developers, designers, what have you, that go into making a phone, and Google's getting half that, and they're getting the half that worked on the Pixel. So they're getting a talented team that are likely also sort of the crossover for flagship phones.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is why, in the short term, ultimately, I'm happy to see HTC live to fight for another day, right?
Another year.
Or another year, yeah. I was going to say the metaphorical day, when God created the earth.
Which, could have been thousands of
could have been an eon. HTC does not have an eon.
No, it doesn't have that kind of day.
No, it doesn't have that kind of day. So ultimately, I'm very happy to see they're going to get $1.1 billion in cash. That can go towards funding development. That can go, hopefully, towards savvier advertising and marketing, and replacing some of the team members that are counterparts now over at Google. But ultimately, what this feels like to me is the anti-Motorola acquisition, where Google buys Motorola and they instantly start mining it for patents, for their IP, for the Aura team, the sort of skunk works at Motorola team. And that ultimately garnered a number of negative reactions, especially when 2 years later, Google flipped Motorola over to Lenovo. This to me feels like the slow burn. You pull over their top team, you get them focused on making Google hardware. I think HTC probably has 2 or 3 years of life left in it, sort of supporting entry-level and mid-range hardware, the Desire line of phones. And then this also gives them plenty of time, an excellent amount of time to figure out what to do with Vive. And once Vive has a home, I think we'll see the rest folded over. If Google had just picked up HTC immediately, there would have been a ton of layoffs, there would have been redundancies, there would have been a number of issues with dealing with HTC's baggage. And here, Google gets exactly what it wants in the short term, and in the long term doesn't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. Sam, do you have audio?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, jump in. Your thoughts on this deal?
I think Juan covered everything perfectly. This is, in essence, HTC's lifeline for God knows how long. The only thing I would say is, instead of HTC going out there and deciding to try to be a phone manufacturer for its own devices, I think this is about time to just sit down and they have a true come to Jesus moment. This shows that HTC's biggest draw to anyone out there is really as an OEM. So they need to basically revisit what the core of their company is. They are an OEM. They need to go out there and they need to find other companies who are willing to do what Google has done now. We're willing to say, hey, you know what? We'll give you a boatload of money. We know you have design chops. We know you have all these other things that a phone manufacturer would want, or anyone who wants to develop a phone would want. So go out there, develop a phone for us. We'll do the marketing. We'll put our branding on it, and you guys just be the hardware manufacturer that you were meant to be. End of story. HTC has they have what a lot of companies don't get to have, which is a reprieve from basically going under. And so they should use this as they should think very hard before they go forward. I'll put it that way.
All right, cool. I see this as the modified version of the Nokia deal. What Microsoft did, you know,
we all have our own tiers, like, you know, from like just simple acquisition to the Motorola deal to the Nokia deal.
I think this is it. I think this is the modified version of that. I won't be surprised if you know, like you mentioned, Vive, I don't know, HTC Vive, them trying to do something with that. Maybe even again, Google looking at that, or Alphabet in particular saying, you know what, maybe this will help us in some of the aspect of that division or what have you. But, you know, to me, I just didn't like the fact that they put their stock on hold in Taiwan. To me, that just kind of said, we're going to die.
No. I disagree with you a little bit there. I understand the need to quell some of the negative sentiment that was already affecting the company's valuation. Mm-hmm. Because there were so many stories. I mean, we had posted a number of stories. Is this the end of HTC? Are they getting bought out? You couldn't search for HTC in any kind of social arena without seeing everyone pontificating about the nature of a Google buyout or an acquisition. And if they knew internally that that's not what this deal was going to resemble for this next stage, this $1.1 billion partnership, and they could actually start to see a negative effect happening to their stock price, I can understand. I'm not saying it was the right move, but I can understand why you would put trading on hold until you could actually properly address that, as opposed to continuing to let your company value slide, because it's not going to instantly rebound. It's going to take time for investors to regain confidence again.
So I definitely I hear you on that part.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision for them to do that. Yes, you're right. A lot of companies who want to.
It ultimately looks terrible. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it actually does. But it looked as though HTC was about to announce that they had nothing, you know, to offer anymore, and no one was going to give them money, or they couldn't get someone to buy them. It really sounded as though HTC was taking, like, you know, initial steps towards basically just going under. That was really bad, because the way I read it was, okay, everyone's been talking about a Google acquisition. Right. And they're like, oh, we're going to have an announcement and it might have to do with Google. So it's like, okay, if Google was going to buy you, that's something you would announce anyway. So that would be like,
would drive your stock up.
Yeah, it would drive your stock up really fast. So it's like, what is this announcement? And then the announcement comes out and it's like, okay, really, this is not the kind of announcement you stopped trading for. It really didn't make any sense to me. But no, that's HTC. They did what they had to do, and yes, ultimately it was the right decision for them to stop trading, and basically that built a lot of anticipation for a lot of people, because a lot of people were assuming that, oh, this was it. They were going to announce Google was buying them over. So it might have actually even helped them in the long run. But from a enterprise organization standpoint, it probably was the best decision for the organization. From someone from the outside looking in, this was a little bit of a cluster, you know.
A little bit, yes. A lot of it.
A little bit. Before we move to the next story, though, why I was late was because my Google Home did something really funny, and I would like to start this out by saying Happy Hispanic Appreciation Month, Juan. And Google totally just threw me for a loop. So I go ahead and I ask Google, hey Google, what's going on, right? So this is it. Hey, what's going on?
I'm celebrating by listening to percussion instruments from Hispanic countries. Clap along to the clave rhythm as we end.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Could you play that again? Make it louder, because we not loud enough.
Or just get closer to your mic or something.
Yeah, can you just
this is right on my mic.
What little I heard.
I'll try this again. Oh, I'll try this again.
I'm celebrating by listening to traditional. What is it? Percussion?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
What's going on?
It's Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm celebrating by listening to percussion instruments from Hispanic countries. Clap along to the clave rhythm as we add conga, bongo, shaker, guiro, cowbell, and timbales.
Seeing one's face. Yes, it was all worth it.
Wow.
I'm like, this could be really awesome or it could be really awful.
I really feel like I'm supposed to be offended by that.
So I asked Google, hey Google, what's going on? And I was like, okay, let's see if it says something for my calendar. And then it started saying this, and I'm like, did I really just hear what I thought I heard? So I had to do it like 8 more times for it to get to the part like record it. So I'm gonna record this and jump on the show real quick.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty great.
Well, I was like, I don't know how to feel about this right now.
I don't. I mean, on the one hand, it's like I want to say, hey, cool, because you're actually talking about Heritage Month. But on the other hand, I want to be like, hey, stay in your lane, Google.
No, it did say other thing that said basically there was another option for if you want to find out more, then just ask me. So it did have other options about it. Okay. It was just the way it was like composing some kind of I don't know what you would call this, like a salsa beats. It's like okay, all right, Google's it went there.
All right, so
they really did just go there.
Yeah, they did. Speaking of Google, we know the event is October 4th. We also know we got leaks this week of a couple of devices, especially the Pixel 2 with some very new, interesting, very ugly colors. And
I mean, like all this news we've been talking about the HTC acquisition, you're like, I'm not feeling super great about their design for Pixel 2. Every time something leaks out, the rear of the phone gets uglier. Like with the sensor and the camera, I mean, the camera, sensor, microphone, and flash location keeps getting shifted around to like the worst possible place for a good-looking phone.
I mean, it's ugliness personified. That is what I can call it. Especially really the colors. You remember that one that's kind of blue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, guys, come on. I'm trying to find the images here. But also we saw a Google Home Mini, which is to be expected, and a Pixel book with a stylus. Yeah, trying to go against that, Surface crowd. Thoughts? Sam, I know Juan has just stated some about the ugly.
I didn't personally see the Pixel book, but I'm really interested in what they're calling the 2 XL, right? The Pixel 2 XL, because just from news out there, it's really as though it's not really the XL. It's like a bigger version of the XL. So there was a rumor they were going to come out with 3 phones: the Pixel 2, the Pixel 2 XL, and the Pixel 2 something or the other, something bigger than the XL. And they dropped the XL for the bigger device. So I'm really curious to find out if that actually plays out. And Google is saying, "Hey, we want a bigger phone than a Pixel XL." And what kind of size would that be? Like, what exactly would that entail? It makes sense for them to have something like the Home Mini. That's just obvious, because you look at something like the Echo Dot. That's something that has been proven to work.
Yeah.
But the Note kind of style with a stylus, that's interesting. I would really like to hear more about that.
Here are the colors. Yeah, sorry guys, I was looking for the colors. I will say, now I'm not sure. I've been seeing mixed things on the pricing. I thought the pricing for the Pixel was going to start at rumored pricing I first saw $749, but I'm now seeing $649 for the Pixel.
Oh wow, I saw 8 somewhere.
Yeah, it's been a little bit all over the place. So here's the image, and here's the what do you call this again? The kind of blue, the whites, and then there's the black, and then there's this offsetting black and white. I mean,
I like the black and white. Why don't you like that one?
You can't sell that phone in resale value. This is called what it is. That nasty blue. And that
the blue is
I mean the black and the black top and white body is gonna have bad resale value. Trust me.
Well, I think they're all actually gonna have bad resale value. Well, first of all, like let's just be honest. It's a Google first-party product, so it's going to take a while for a consumer to know what a Pixel is. I mean, the reason why an iPhone has such high resale value is because consumers will shop them like used cars without knowing what the rest of the competition looks like. Same thing with the Galaxy, retains a little bit better value. Any other player, it's going to take a while. But these color options are certainly not going to help. I mean, isn't the kind of blue, doesn't that look like one of the Nexus phones they put out, where it was like a really kind of cheap looking mint sherbet kind of color? Was it the Nexus? The Nexus 5 had one of those sort of.
Oh yeah, Nexus 5. No, it wasn't the. Let me look for that.
I can't remember. I probably
phone.
tried to eradicate it from my memory, but this is the thing that bothered me about the original Pixel was this two-tone satin finish with like a glass plate, and now they're taking the worst aspects of glass and matte finishes and putting them together on one device. And I would really like to have a conversation with whoever's designing this phone, because this is terrible execution when we see the number of people who got excited about like the solar red U11. That was a talking point for a hot minute. Like that, no one had ever seen a phone like that before. And you're working with HTC, so it's not like you don't have access to that kind of design language or design development. So I can't for the life of me figure out what they're trying to do if this is really what we get. And like I said, if you look up close and you look at some of the details, everything just looks weird and scrunched and smushed together. The fingerprint sensor feels oddly bordered by that strip between glass and matte finish.
I guess that idea is so that you can find it just in case you miss.
No. Again, we can. I'm sitting here holding the new iPhone 8, right? And Apple does a great job of blending function around the form. So to not look at why some things work. I mean, like, look at the flash and then those two little sensor dots next to the camera. Why aren't those centered? You know, like those types of little details do matter. You know, it really bothers me when you look at something and it looks.
Scroll back up so I can see that, the flash and then the two sensor dots in the bottom.
So scroll back up and then
on
the flash kind of sits at the top third of the camera sensor, and then the two little dots fall underneath. I know space is at a premium on the inside of a smartphone, but balancing those elements really does help the aesthetic of a device. And I'm not feeling super confident about Google's offering this year.
Yeah, I mean, so GSM Arena says, here's the bad news. The source who rendered these said the Pixel 2 XL will cost $849 for 64.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That sounds totally legit.
Yeah, and $949 for 128. So it's still under $1,000 for
$949 for a Pixel device.
Well, for 128. Yeah.
Pixel
128.
XL at 128. So that's why I say it's not bad. But then again, you know, as long as it also packs the same amount of features in terms of, you know, lifestyle features that those other two have, then you can definitely say, okay, fine. You know, it's cheaper at a higher storage, you know, size, so to speak.
Yeah, those numbers sound totally fine to me for what Google is trying to position. It's more, I have some problems with the aesthetic that they're trying to deliver.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll just have to wait to see to October 4th when, excuse me, when the Pixel 2 XL and all those devices are announced. All right, cool. Let's talk some iPhone. I'm
just gonna sit out of this because you guys have handled it. I haven't. So.
Sam hasn't. Yeah. So you have the iPhone 8. I have the 8 Plus because I don't know what tiny.
Oh, I've got the 8 Plus also. I've lost. I don't know how I keep losing this fight, but Jaime keeps saying, "Oh, you know what? I should get the smaller phone." You know that I hate big phones. It's like, oh no, it'll be fine. And so now it's kind of become this thing where for the last two phones, I've gotten the bigger phone. Well, if we need to do the comparison, then I need to have the bigger phone again. So that little jerk totally weeded me out of me having smaller phones.
I will say this though, with the iPhone. So in terms of design, like what you were talking about, aesthetics, it's great, but this phone is still poorly designed in just terms of usability.
Well, I want to see is Marquez going to do his wasted space video on an iPhone.
I mean,
because he was all about it on HTC, but you want to talk about some wasted space? We can talk about some wasted space.
Yeah.
So, do we think he's going to do that? I don't think he's got the balls to do it. Let's see.
Man, really you're calling Marquez out.
Oh, okay, look. The thing about the things I like about this device and things I don't. I have it in my 24-hour review that I just dropped. But with the pricing, so this is $799, right?
Yeah.
Starting at $799, I have a 1080p display. That already is just pissing me off. For $799, it's a 1080p display. Now,
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you there.
Now,
that's not even a year old. That's like 2-3 years.
Yeah, and what's really sad about it, the camera, I think, takes some really good photos. And I'm taking photos
to the portrait mode are already pretty hot.
And I'm comparing with this, right? But I look at my S Note 8 screen, I'm like, that shot looks beautiful. I look at it, I was like, let me just make sure it is. Now, the portrait mode is still solid. The portrait, the other functions.
What do you mean? What do you
like
what,
the stage lighting is? It works sometimes. It doesn't work.
All of the beta stuff. So especially because I like to wear hats, you
cut it off, right?
It's got this weird it frames around my beard, so it ignores that I've got an ear, and then it warps through my. It's terrible.
So that was a question I had.
Also super beta. I mean, they did say that this was a beta feature that they were putting out on the phone. But
so the stage lighting, is that for the front-facing camera or for both cameras?
So it's on the rear for the A+.
On the rear for the A+. Okay. The iPhone 10 will have that on the front-facing camera.
Okay, because that was the thing. Because the iPhone 10, it might be better with the iPhone 10 because of the new sensors and upgraded cameras and everything on the front.
I totally believe it will be. Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another thing for people to keep in mind if you're thinking of getting a 10 versus an 8, right?
If you're really into this feature, do not get the 10. Before this, I'll tell you now. You know why? This is exactly the 10. Change this display. That's the 10. I mean, even the sensor in the front. Okay, I get it, right? You've got face unlock, but this is a 10. Hardware-wise, almost everything.
The processor is about the same, but I think
it's the same processor.
The same processor, but what about RAM though? Is it the same amount of RAM?
It runs super fast and smooth. It really doesn't matter at this point. I'm just saying.
Apple doesn't build iOS around. You need a ton of RAM.
Yeah, I remember Windows Phone, right? You could use a Windows Phone.
The reason I'm asking is if you're going to be putting if you're going to put a sensor that can basically do all these facial capture. What's it called? This facial capture. That's exactly what I think I was trying to say. And you don't have the underpinning there, the underpinning RAM and processor to do that kind of work. Then you might be running into some issues. So I'm thinking maybe Apple is going to bump up the RAM on there.
No, there's more RAM on the 10. We just don't. Somebody stated I think it's maybe an extra gig or something like that. One of the iFixit people or something like that. Question for you, Juan, since you use this. I haven't used iOS that frequently. I mean, let's be honest, 2 years ago. So I'm having issues with iOS 11, just transferring my content off my iPhone. Have you had any of that? I mean, just plugging it into the PC, drag and drop. Certain files don't play properly. Things don't transfer. It's very wonky. I know a couple of people mentioned it on Twitter too.
So I've done about a dozen photos and 2 videos, and the USB protocol has worked okay for those. So I haven't run into anything yet that would give me.
I've had to email myself stuff.
To your Mac?
Huh? To your Mac.
Wait.
No, but I mean, what you're talking about is still, I think, one of the common core criticisms of iOS that is getting better, but is something we just completely take for granted in Android land. Because even Jaime will talk about, because we both do a lot of our production, writing and recording on iOS because of the USB audio support. So we're at a trade show and we're wearing little clip-on mics. We're actually recording to iPhones, or sometimes even Jaime to his iPad. And for whatever reason, he has trouble transferring that audio off of his iPad to his Mac and his PC where I end up having to do the data dumps because like it literally just won't work when we're out in the field. And so with all of the stuff that Apple builds around their ecosystem, I'm plugging his iPad into my Razer laptop to transfer audio off. There's still something that Apple hasn't really fixed, but because iTunes is more about consumption, most consumers are like, oh yeah, well I can transfer my music really easy and I can set up playlists and that's really all they care about. So I don't think Apple has really dedicated the developers to fixing the other direction where you want to get stuff back off the phone. And that's still one of the disappointing things where Android has consistently been good and is getting a little bit better about some of the other things like, you know, hardware support.
Yeah, try transferring a audiobook from Audible using iTunes into an iPod. Yeah.
I like my sanity and I don't like raising my heart rate unless I'm going to work out.
I feel like I'm going to break my iPod every single time I do that. I seriously get pissed off because you have to go to Audible, find your book in your library, hit download. It automatically downloads a file that you click on that launches the Audible downloader. The Audible downloader then asks you, after it's downloaded, when you click play, asks you to authorize it. You authorize it through a web page going back to Audible. Once you authorize it, it opens up iTunes where it starts playing, and then you try to sync it, and iTunes go, you have to authorize iTunes to your account. I'm like, just transfer the files now.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's proper terrible.
Fine. So what do you like? What don't you like? Like, what are just the things you've experienced with the iPhone 8 Plus?
Well, so I don't like this form factor. This is a lot of phone for a 5.5 inch display. Yeah. I'm not super bothered by the 1080p screen in a world where Samsung will not disclose to consumers that their phone is being shipped reduced to 1080p. Where you have to go into a performance mode setting or you have to go into the display settings, which most people actually don't know that anything has happened and that 1080p seems to work just fine for them. It will be an issue if you want to play with VR, but I just don't know how many people are really looking for some kind of solution for throwing their phone into a visor versus the number of people that are making it through their day just fine at 1080p. But again, like I want to say, this is a lot of face to have this sized screen, and this is even before we started talking about like the Galaxy S8, with 18.5 and 2:1 aspect ratios. This was still a lot of bezel and a lot of forehead and chin to pull off a 5.5 inch screen. I can't. It's so silly that for as many phones that I've had that have supported Qi wireless charging, how happy I was just to plop this down on my first generation Nokia charger and watch it start charging. Like that's not a big deal if you've already been in the Android space or you were coming from the old Windows Phone arena. Mm-hmm. But to see it on an iPhone just felt good. That I didn't have to buy something proprietary. I didn't have some funky, like it just worked with something that I already owned that was an agreed upon, accepted standard, an actual standard. That's what you get when you have a real standard. You get interoperability that has some backwards compatibility.
Is this the first major standard Apple is? I mean, I'm sure there are others, but just in recent years that Apple is just outright accepted.
Well, I mean, you look at Lightning Connector. Lightning Connector has become a standard unto itself because of the iPhone. You look at NFC. What can you do with NFC on an iPhone? You can tap and pay. Yeah. But NFC is so much more versatile than that. So Apple has this history of taking things and making them proprietary one-offs, and they're very successful at it. I mean, they're really good at it. But to see that they just put in Qi coils, and I don't have to worry about ever plugging in this iPhone. I don't have to go hunting for the few lightning cables that I've got. I just plop it down and it just starts charging. That felt really good. The thing that is critically important about this phone, and the reason why I'm not being as harsh on it as I probably could have been, because there are a lot of gripes that I'm always going to have with this form factor, the iPhone 6s Plus and 6 Yeah. Anyway, so in my video, I accidentally called this the iPhone S8. I didn't catch it, and I published it. So there are a bunch of shitty comments on our video about like, oh my god, you said it's Galaxy iPhone. Actually, none of the comments.
It's a 7S. That's what it is.
Well, it is, and my brain has too many 8s and S's and pluses and stuff.
Everyone's beginning to use the same kind of nomenclature for their phones, right?
But I gotta say, you know, owing to our last conversation about augmented reality, this is legit. This is for reals now. I've got my Lenovo Fab 2 Pro charging under my desk, and like, no one should ever really buy that as a phone. This is now a mass market, consumer accessible way to interact with services. And I have this cheesy little demo using the IKEA app in the 3-minute first look video, because I had to know. I mean, like, the second I had my iTunes, my Apple Store, App Store and iTunes credentials in this phone, the first thing I downloaded was an AR app, and it works phenomenally well. So I'm in this little alleyway, and I plop down 2 chairs and a desk, and I moved all throughout that alleyway, and they didn't miss a beat. They didn't budge at all. Like, this thing tracked it exactly like how I would want a phone to track it. So for all of our griping about, oh, Apple isn't tech forward, or, oh, I can't believe they're selling a 1080p screen, this has something that literally no other mass market phone in the world has. So that's the price of entry.
Not true.
What? You can do AR on almost any phone out there.
You can't do AR like this on any other phone.
Then again, I haven't seen it.
Wait. People, let me pull it up. I just need to find the right name. That
No. I'm saying an actual mass market phone.
Yeah, like, Asus has the AR phone. Asus whatever
AR with a Qualcomm A20, and as much as I love Asus, their major push is not on the AR branch.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree on that.
That is an offshoot phone. That is a secondary phone to their primary flagship line.
Oh, now you want to be technical, huh?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is there isn't an iPhone 8, an iPhone 8 Plus, and an iPhone AR. This is just the iPhone 8 Plus. Right. There isn't, you know, a Lenovo Vibe that just has augmented reality built into it. There isn't a Galaxy S8 that just has augmented reality built into it. Every other manufacturer has treated it like some weird offshoot because you needed this weird hardware layout for Project Tango. And Apple found a way to do it with the 2 camera sensors and probably some additional location sensing, some smart scanning. And it doesn't differ from any other iPhone that's ever been produced. And that is actually something to celebrate. That is something that I can give Apple a kudos for. And that is a data point that I can point to say, maybe less so for the iPhone 8, but the iPhone 8 Plus, there's actually something special going on there. You know, if you don't want, like you were saying, if you don't want iPhone 10, if you don't want to drop $1,000, if it's just not your cup of tea, you don't want the unibrow, the iPhone 8 Plus doesn't really feel like a consolation prize. It feels like a legit, proper, you know, first party flagship device for 2017.
Oh no, definitely. Nick Coy says AR isn't changing anything. Dead battery is in a couple of hours. Yeah, it does run warm when you use AR. I'll say that much.
Anything that requires some horsepower is going to do the same.
I didn't really check battery in terms of, you know, I mean, it's going to drain battery also. So that's just expected.
But I think the only reason why AR hasn't done anything so far is because it's been the only example we've had is Project Tango. So how many devices have really been sold with Tango? So what developer is going to care? With ARKit, Apple actually has easier developer tools to interact with the iPhone, and it's going out in a phone that's going to sell a couple million in its first quarter.
Yeah, I mean the main blame for the stop on AR really is on the Android side. It's not any of the manufacturers, it's Google. Unless somebody wanted to, you know, kind of put it in on their own. This is something Google should have applied tools to say, okay, hey guys, let's do this. You know, this is an update for it. But we all know how Google does with its updates anyway.
Well, and everyone, and Google included, everyone was just sort of, again, treating it like this weird little experimental fun thing that you could do. And so you put it off on a side project. You don't put it into a major product release.
Yeah.
But this, when you fire up AR on the iPhone, and you even just do some silly things, like there's a running app that like tracks your progress. So as you hold your phone up and you're looking through the screen, it gives you like these little goals to go and hit and stuff. And it's like, I'm playing real world Super Mario.
That's gonna be fun. That's going to be so much fun watching people run around looking at their phone.
Right. You talk about something like Pokemon Go, and the real world aspect of that is
actually, that's pretty cool. Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what I'm saying. This is awesome. Okay, you sold me on it, man. You just sold me on it.
when you hold up your phone, if I want 2 little Pokemon, or I want my, what is it, Blue Eyes White Dragon to go.
Yeah, Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Awesome. Instead of just going to some stupid cut screen where they fight like in a digital space, I want to see them jumping off of park benches. I want to see them running around trees. I want to see them actually interacting with the world in front of me. And this is now for real. Like this can really happen now.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of it's really hamstrung. A lot of them are dumb. Like I've got a little like it's like a Tamagotchi, but it's a dragon. And so you pull up your phone and you have to scan the surface. And then once you scan the surface, the dragon can plop down on that surface. But once the dragon plops down on that surface, it's tracked phenomenally well. So you can move all around the room. You can zoom in on it. You can zoom out on it. It works crazy well. But you know, this is like the first wave of developers toying with this kind of stuff. I think it'll get a lot better really fast.
Yeah, the one I've been playing is the AR combat game, and I'm trying to pull it up so I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. But that actually has some really good tracking when you know, if you map it on the floor and you're standing up, you really have to come in, like you have to bend down, go on the floor, come in real close if you want to see. I don't know if you guys can see it. No.
Well, not when you turn it around, because then it's
just
your chest.
No, I was trying to get the other perspective of my map from that side.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but I just couldn't do it. But yeah, it's really cool. It works well. They've done I think a really good job in just making it work, you know, like it should, right? Without any fuss. So that's something that, you know, Android's behind it.
We've gotten a ton of comments on our video already, like, you know, oh, iPhone, and they're just not so innovative, and Apple sucks, and oh, they're selling the same design again. And I can totally agree with all of like the design gripes, because this phone feels stale. Like from the front, it's exactly the same as an iPhone 7 Plus. Like if you wanted something progressive, you're gonna be disappointed by this phone. But the few of those tech tricks really do elevate this above the previous iPhone updates that we've had in the past, where I was super cold about the iPhone 7. I'm feeling a lot better about the iPhone 8.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do like it too. I do like it for at least what it brings. I'm just kind of happy that those lifestyle features are there. So just from a surface standpoint, when, you know, for me, it's one of those things, because human nature is, my phone can do this, my phone can do this, my phone can do this. Now, Apple users can say all those things and then add AR on top of that, right? Yeah. You know, so to me, that's what people do when they buy devices. It's not the specs or whatever. It's like, I can do live focus, I can do portrait mode with these extra. You know, that's the whole idea there. And yeah, you could say it doesn't work that well, but we're like, well, I still have the extra anyway. Do you? No.
Well, I mean, that's always been the selling point of a Samsung, right? Like, oh yeah, well, I can also do like AirWave, and I can also do this, and I can also do that. And you're like, okay,
exactly.
I check my email.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool. So, I mean, definitely check out the videos we have on Pocket Now, as well as also on Booredatwork here. And let's move to our next topic. T-Mobile Sprint merger, that's coming back again. You know, looks like word is like October might be a time where we hear some of those rumblings, and that would rival. It will now make it the big three.
There has to be some kind of love song about never giving up hope. You know, that goes with this whole.
I mean, it's Barry White, man, right?
Yeah. Because seriously, man, SoftBank is like, no, we're not giving up on you, T-Mobile. We're not giving up on you. You know, I wonder how that makes Sprint feel. I'm sorry, but no, it's something that I think we all knew from the start. T-Mobile is the company they wanted. T-Mobile is a company that has the CEO that's doing something that's totally different from anyone else has done. Everyone's playing, when it comes to features or just offerings and services, service-wise, everyone's been playing catch up to T-Mobile, and that's That's primarily because of their CEO. Sprint was a company that helped SoftBank get into the US space when it came to telecommunications. I think they want T-Mobile because T-Mobile is their long-term play. So if they can do this, SoftBank might just have a pathway into being probably, if not the top, then probably the second best ISP in America, given the fact that they have such a huge war chest. And then you have Sprint and T-Mobile now. If they could merge both of those, they would definitely be a contender to actually topple AT&T and maybe actively compete with Verizon.
I want more competition, but it doesn't look like we're really going to get it from Sprint in a meaningful form. So I would prefer 4 really healthy companies fighting for this space instead of 3, but because I kind of feel like once T-Mobile and Sprint merge and they become sort of because that could push AT&T to the 3rd place position, right?
Yeah, it could. It could definitely push them there.
But in a way that where all of these companies are so massive and so huge that I feel there's the danger of individual consumer concerns being sort of ignored. When you have an upstart company, like T-Mobile was the 4th place, they became the 3rd place. Sprint's been trying to upset, pricing and cell phone sales models. And I just feel like you've got more opportunity for something dynamic to happen. When you've got 3 ultra large companies, it makes me nervous. But again, it seems somewhat inevitable that at some point they're probably going to pull the trigger on this. And it's likely to not face much opposition just because they're the 3rd and 4th place. It's not Verizon buying out Sprint, it's T-Mobile. So that doesn't sound very dangerous. But I do worry that this in the long term probably won't be great for consumers.
But if they do merge and they are larger than AT&T by merging, I'm sure there will be some kind of deal to basically make them launch some kind of MVNO service.
The thing is that they already do have, especially at least on the T-Mobile might have to truly spin out Metro PCS at that point. Like it can't be part of T-Mobile, I don't know what Sprint has. I think Sprint has the Virgin ones, but
Sprint does stuff with Fi as well.
Yeah, it's T-Mobile and Sprint for projects.
T-Mobile and Sprint have 5, but I think Metro PCS is the big chunk that T-Mobile has that's in there. That's part of the company that they definitely would probably have to spin off as its separate unit. So that would be interesting to see how that turns out. I added a topic here. I just sent it to you guys in the chat, and I know Sam, you've seen this. This is from Windows Central talking about Microsoft's Andromeda OS aims to turn Windows 10 into a modular platform for the future. And we had talked about this a little bit, Sam. I know while you're reading there, Juan, so take your time, just kind of browse through. And, you brought the point up that this is pretty much what they promised from the get-go.
Yeah, they were just promising, the same unified app development for Windows 10 all over again. I don't know. The thing for me is I've hoped for this for so long. I'm at the point where just do it and prove it to me, right? Because they've touted this so much that you're gonna have one app that works across your Xbox. It's gonna work across your Surface. It's gonna work across your PC. And then you turn the Xbox on and you turn on Hulu, and the Hulu on the Xbox doesn't look anything like the Hulu on your PC. And you're like, come on.
It's funny though. In the article, the guy actually states some of that, saying that your Xbox will now, like, the idea is that your Xbox will just be its core Windows, and then you're adding just the kernels of like an entertainment kernel, so to speak, right? So that entertainment apps work, or those kind of things, so that it's not. I think the problem they face and why they're trying to shift to this is that the way Windows is. Even with Windows 10, Windows 10 is still a legacy-based OS. It can still carry on, all the way back, and that's the problem. Windows itself is chunky, so this almost sounds to me a little bit like Essential Phone. What was the OS the guy talked about again?
Essential OS.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of feels like their own version of that will be the core of Windows instead, so that you can now have a very light version where all it is just picking and choosing the features that it wants to use for the device. So if you're a hardware maker and you want your device to just be this, then you can pick and choose certain things. Or if it's multi-purpose, you can pick and choose that kind of thing.
But wouldn't that just, even make the Windows ecosystem just that much more, fractured? If each manufacturer is saying, okay, there's a core Windows, the way we all know what that is. You probably could run all the Microsoft applications on it, but then if you want to run some third-party application that you can normally run on your PC, you can't really run it on this laptop because we didn't.
No, I don't think it will apply to that, though. I think it will apply to devices, and like something like a laptop is still considered, in that general
part of the PC.
Yeah, we're going down to. I think this is for them. They want to do IoT. They want to do mobile again in some whatever way.
Sam, to your point, if I'm reading this correctly, and a manufacturer decided that they didn't want to support, say the application layer on a tablet, they could do that. You're absolutely right. And they would probably die in the market.
Exactly.
Like if a company wants to commit suicide, I think you should be, you should let them.
Yeah, definitely.
The potential is, yes, this company might inevitably just be, hey, we're going to go out of business, or it might just be, hey, guess what? This company is doing so great because, hey, it now has a platform, or should I say, now has a device that runs, fast Windows 10. You can do really basic stuff on it. Probably adds a stylus on there, and let's say it sells like gangbusters. That's like you now have essentially a different SKU of Windows.
I mean, yes and no.
True, but you're totally accurate there. But I think what will eventually happen is the market will settle on a couple flavors of what makes sense for Windows, and then a couple flavors of what makes sense for a smart web camera.
Yeah.
Or a couple flavors of what might make sense for a tablet. Like a tablet maybe doesn't have proper x86 support for legacy programs, but you've got sort of universal apps. If they can ever get developers working on those in earnest across all platforms, then you don't need the legacy code application layer. You can cut that out, and your tablet will run sleeker. Will run faster for it. So I think in the short term, anytime you mess with an operating system, it's probably going to be a clusterfuck of epic proportions.
Yeah.
But this is a Band-Aid that Microsoft has been needing to pull off for a while, and they keep like kind of peeling at it and ow, and then putting it back on. We need to rip this thing off and actually get people to start working on new code.
I think I do definitely agree, because one of the big things you think about it here, you're talking about tablets and things. Again, this is Microsoft, so the big push here is business. Think about all the ATMs that run Windows 7.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just think about the amount of those and how they are trying to solve that problem, because going to Windows 10 also means just adding more on top, or at least wiping
or also like the number of times you've seen the blue screen of death on Broadway.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's that kind of stuff that they're thinking. They're like, look, on the consumer side, it's not going to be too much of a tilt, because again, there's the categories that require certain things, not the OS itself. A tablet will require tablet things, a laptop, a phone, all those kind of, general consumer facing products. But when you go to ATMs, the fact that, Windows has now lost a lot of business on the cash register side, now they've lost a ton, of that business, maybe
I can tell you, like, every little mom and pop shop. I mean, like, there's a little pizza place, there's a little Greek deli. All of them are using either Square or some kind of iPad POS system.
Exactly, yeah. So they've lost all that kind of business, except maybe the big chain stores still using, the legacy stuff, And then you're looking at, even when you now go to proper IoT stuff, whether it's down to, we know in the future we're going to have a lot of connected devices in terms of 5G applications, from your parking meters to your street lights. They want to be in all those places, right? If you have Windows where the guy who is controlling the parking meters, the lights in the street, maybe he's also monitoring the water system, that all relates back to his Windows PC, then it's fantastic, right? So you need to have that kind of layering across the board, that Windows is flexible. Right now, Windows is just not that flexible. It's flexible for consumer things, but when you move out, it's a pain. And so I definitely right. This is where I think it needs to just kind of like, happen.
And honestly, I think we can easily say up front where this is still likely least relevant is for phones.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it'll be nice that you can put a couple pieces together and maybe make a slimmer, sleeker Windows that can run on a phone. But Microsoft has shown no interest still in doing anything more than just prototyping hardware. If there were any kind of push for a real consumer release on something that was mobile related and that they showed that they had interest in supporting that product long term, then this would be a more interesting conversation. But I think this is huge for IoT.
Yeah,
if we can get Microsoft more competitive there, then I think we'll have some really cool stuff to show probably in about 3 years.
What's interesting about it is this week they promoted Phil Spencer, Xbox head, to the he's now on the Microsoft board. I find that interesting.
He's an advisor to Satya.
He's also, he reports to him, is also an advisor. So the interesting thing is this is a hardware guy. This is somebody who has pushed the hardware division. It had to make cuts in terms of the entertainment side of the Xbox because of outside factors, not necessarily him. But this is somebody who has done well on the Xbox itself, because we all know how Xbox has been in terms of, Microsoft trying to
guys, don't you find it so strange that Microsoft had this perfect Trojan horse of a computing device that could live in your living room?
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
They totally let off the pressure, though.
Yeah, I know.
They had, long before we had, Alexa, we had Connect. And
but then what did they do? Cortana. They got rid of Connect. So how do you talk to your device? There's no way unless you plug it into a controller.
That's what I mean, though, is instead of really doubling down, it really does seem like if you're first, you're going to get screwed, right? If you're first, everyone's going to poop on you, and no one's going to say your product is good, and everyone's going to complain about it, and the security implications. And then 2 years later, there's literally a Wi-Fi enabled speaker that lives in your home and listens to everything that you say.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. It's just interesting with Microsoft and that vision, right? They were necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily first, but take the Surface, for instance. That was one place that, for whatever reason, they stuck to their guns in changing the way a laptop was going to be used, right? And they stuck with it. And we all know it's 3 years, 5 years is when it becomes mature, as we've seen with the Surface 5, which is pretty much the new Pro. But with the Xbox, we knew there was something there. We knew with Connect, we knew, even like Sam stated, that fine, you just throw in a microphone. You don't need to have a speaker because it will come off your TV. Just a microphone in your Xbox One X that gives you Cortana, built-in Cortana. Windows Xbox One X is not running Windows. Make it proper Cortana running, not this half jankiness that you threw in, because Cortana works well on your PC, so you don't have to have.
I never use it on my PC, but it does work well.
It does work well.
I use it for the first day, maybe.
Yeah, and then having an updated what do you call it again? Connect with the Xbox One X would have given you Windows Hello unlock feature much better, and also bring in your AR and VR capabilities, because now you have a camera that's mapped in. Those are the things that we know quite well, that the vision was placed. Whoever had that initial idea probably had all these wild dreams,
right.
and the fact that Microsoft was like, yeah, we'll do it initially. You're like, oh my God, we're actually going to go to the future. And you realize you had to go back to 1989.
Yeah, I think it really goes back to the leadership there. I think Satya Nadella is not a hardware guy, and it's really nice that Spencer is now part of his advisory board. But he needs to, refocus on hardware, because he's really been cutting out some really key hardware offerings that could really, make the regular consumer engage with Microsoft services. Talk about the band being even like almost a gateway into AI for them, a gateway into just home automation with like it had a mic on it. You know, talk about all these other things that they could have done with like we're saying with the Connect. Talk about what they could have done even if they had a phone, a new updated phone that is focused on AI. There's so many things they could have done. But
you mentioned that. It's funny. And I was like, from the band, Microsoft could have easily released wireless, true wireless speakers. I'm sorry, speakers, headphones that added a lot of more integration with the fitness life. It doesn't have to be music focused. It has to be just that people will go, okay, all right, this makes sense. And that's how you steer your company into different directions, right? You use one product to add into a different market sphere, and then you can expand in that market sphere, which is what the Surface has done on one aspect, where Microsoft wasn't making laptops or anything like that. And now they are now a full-fledged, manufacturer. And I think it's those things where you look at it and you see, and you're talking about AI, is the fact that for you to have that AI influence, you must have certain hardware connector points, be it, say, like you mentioned, the band, be it a speaker, be it the Xbox, because AI has to learn. Yeah. That's one aspect. It must learn from your own activities, how you do things, how you game, how you watch TV content, right? Where, to me, if that's the case, I remember there were rumblings of a mini Xbox dongle, and they scrapped that, where you have it in another room and it acts like Steam, because you can basically cast it over to that room and still play your Xbox while somebody else is watching TV or whatever in there, and then you now have a competitor that goes into the space where Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and you can offer those services, or even use that dongle to stream from your PC. And then you now have PC gaming. Man,
it's really amazing, especially since
we're geniuses. We need board seats.
Yeah,
but again, I think one of the concerns that I've been having recently, it doesn't really seem to matter if a company can make all the right moves in a market where the initial reaction from any consumer to something which is really different, not just like the exact same thing I know, but in a prettier packaging, is to actively campaign against people buying it. And so what kind of fortitude do you need to have as a company to survive? Like, could someone make a Surface today and not be Microsoft, right? Not have the amount of money that Microsoft was willing to lose on just wedging their toe into the laptop market to try and deliver a future forward-facing product.
You have to be a relatively unknown company. You have to be a company that no one's watching like an eagle.
Well, even then, if you're a relatively unknown company, can you survive long enough to become known? Because then you even have a longer entry window where if you're really first with a new tech, no one knows about you. And then when they do know about you, they're going to say, oh, well, this new company thinks they can do something better. They're dumb. Don't buy their product. Can you survive that for 3 years after people discover you?
You do make a good point, because if you look at the Xbox, and when the Kinect was coming out and it was going to be always on, and someone heard, oh, always on, it means it's going to be listening to you at all times. Oh my God, you have to turn this off. This is awful. We can't believe you're doing this or whatever.
That's literally why, one, we didn't get an Xbox 360. We got a PlayStation, because my wife was, I was concerned too, but not necessarily as concerned as she was. But that's also one of the reasons why we've never really invested much in a Google Home or an Alexa, is we still have that sort of vague remembering that that was a concern we had, where now the market has kind of adopted it. And now it's totally cool if there's a microphone that's listening to you constantly in your home. Now it's fine. If you were to put out the Kinect now, everybody would be like, oh, this is great. I can finally talk to my Xbox. Why didn't Microsoft just do this from the beginning? Take the L, Microsoft.
But if you think about this, Microsoft had these, at that time, Microsoft still had the band. It had something that was on everyone's wrist. And Microsoft could be like, you know what, one of our options really could just be we put an icon on your the band. All you need to do is just tap the band and that activates it. And you tap it again and that deactivates it. I think there were ways of doing things like that, and they just did not innovate enough to get.
No, I do agree with Juan to a certain degree of that, first initial move in this current day and age where everybody is, does an SWJ attack on whatever you do. But to Sam's point too, you think about it, is they had they had like gateway drugs. Like the band was a gateway drug to something else, and they just cut it. Which is there's certain things they do which make no sense. Where you go, okay, you're not the market leader, but you don't have to be when you have a product that everyone's like, no, this shit is really good. Just change the design. We're waiting for number 3. You know, it will be solid. You know, and
right. But that's also part of the problem is like at some point, geeks need to get on the train, right? You know, if we really do want cool new things, like we actually have to be willing to put our money where our mouths are collectively. And that's one of the things that's been really frustrating to talk about. We talk about like 360-degree video. Yeah, it's rough. It's totally broken. The editing process is for shit. But do we want new content? Do we? Or do we want the exact same sort of rectangle viewing TV stuff that we currently have now? At some point, we have to accept that occasionally we need to change our behavior.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, it really seems unless the product does exactly the same thing as the product you're currently using in exactly the same way, and you don't have to change anything about your behavior, and it looks exactly how you want it to look, which is probably like something you already own, then you're going to say it's an L, that you're going to say it's a fail. And that is not what geeks should be.
Yeah.
Geeks should be willing to take a few risks. Geeks should be willing to celebrate some exciting technologies. And I know we've all been burned, but we can still look at a market and say, you know, this has potential. I want to support it. You know, I'm still sad about the Pebble. I'm still sad about the company Nextbit. You know, like I wanted them to succeed. We had a Robin, like we paid for that Robin in Pocket Now. That was just before I joined the team, and I desperately wanted to do a sort of a post-op on that phone. I pick up the iPhone 8, and I'm willing to go with everybody who says that the design is stale. But if you don't think AR could be a game changer, then I think you're really short-sighted. And I don't think you really have an idea of what this could bring to a variety of industries. But if we don't go out there and support developers, who's going to give us our really great heads-up display? Who's going to take a risk on another pair of smart glasses? You know, we can't keep waiting for a company to fix every problem, make it perfect, 100%, not have to explain it to you so you just intuitively know how to use it and then go on. We actually need to be on the ground floor so that we can drive. The geeks can drive the car for where technology goes in the future. And right now,
it's part of the conversation. Just be part of the conversation,
right? Just to be
and not just be no fail. No, that's not.
We're going to complain about stale design, but this doesn't matter to general consumers out there. They're going to see an iPhone with a glass back. They're going to think it's pretty. They're going to go out and buy it. You know, like if we aren't driving that discussion, then we're completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's very true. I think
I would say we're completely irrelevant. You turn into just talking heads if you're not driving conversation that sparks decision.
You don't want to be InfoWars.
You're just going to be a talking head. You're just going to be another person saying stuff that either supports some kind of, you know, already agreed upon narrative, and you're not adding anything to anyone's lives. And that's just, at that point, you might as well just, you know, shut down your channel and be done.
But here's a fun side point, which kind of goes back to Microsoft and Apple. It says, Ronald Collins says, it was a sensor that made the Kinect do what it did. Now it gives you a crappy poop emoji on Apple that mimics your facial expressions.
You see, but Ronald, though, the truth of the matter is simply this, right? Even when Xbox had the Kinect, the whole hand gestures weren't that great. So the cameras, to me, were not the reason to have the Kinect. When you
the voice was great.
The voice was, because you stepped into the room, and yes, the cameras would automatically tell that it was you walking in, and it would basically start your profile. That's great, but you could do the same thing with voice. You could basically walk into a room and say, hey, Cortana, start Sam's profile. And it turns on my Xbox in my profile.
No,
you can still use voice to do those things. So basically, Microsoft decided not to innovate. They decided not to make a decision that would increase consumer usability of the device, but rather to just cut off something, save money on that end, and basically keep charging the same price. They made a money-making decision rather than an innovation decision.
See, one of the things that I loved about the Xbox One when I got it, I remember my ex-girlfriend then came to my apartment, and I was doing work, and she's like, I want to watch Netflix. I'm like, just tell Xbox to go to Netflix. And she's like, well, I'm like, just do that. She did it, and that was it. Done. You know, to me, you know, that's what we want down the line. You know, we had some glimpses of that, and now we can do even more with Google Home and Amazon and things like that. But the fact that that is, you know, that ability was something that Microsoft started with at a time where, and a position where, you know, they besides the business decision, like you said, they also listen to gamers, which is the other thing too. Look, gamers they complain fervently about the multimedia functionalities of the Xbox. We don't care. We don't want it. This and that. You know, and now, you know, these are the same gamers who are like, you know what? I watch Netflix on my Xbox. How come HBO Go is not working on my Xbox? What's happening? I'm like, but you are the ones who were bitching and moaning about it like 7 years ago. How many? I can't remember.
Actually, you know, like what's really frustrating is I'd be willing to give people the benefit of the doubt that the people who were bitching and moaning about having too much stuff are actually not the people who are bitching and moaning about not having enough now. But this is exactly why I don't think we can trust gamers, geeks, the tech elite anymore to really drive like the sort of consumer focus. You know, like if you were to workshop some of this stuff, I don't think we can trust their opinions anymore. I think right now you vote for which team you want to win, and then you excuse any flaws or any compromises. You know, if you're Team Samsung, then anything they do is great, and things that they do that are missteps are probably not that big a deal.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's true. It's funny you mentioned that, because in my my 24-hour review, I said, look, I have to give kudos to Apple because 4K 60 frames per second looks goddamn beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, straight up looks good. I mean, and somebody was like, well, it's a little shaky when you're walking. I'm like, I didn't expect OIS stabilization to be that good at 4K 60 frames, because it's one of these butter smooth feels that you're going to catch. Like if you move it a little, it would just distort, because I'm standing there and I'm recording directly off the iPhone. I was impressed with the mic. I was impressed with 4K. I was just pissed off that I couldn't plug my mic because I was using my I have to use a dongle, and of course the lightning port is blocked because I was using whatever. I was using the stand that just blocked it anyway. But yeah, it's the fact that they did that, and people were like, "Oh, you said, you know, they did something great." I'm like, yeah, it's solid. Like nobody has it. I don't have a camera. I don't know any camera out there that any YouTuber, maybe unless it's a Red, I don't know any YouTuber's camera that does 4K 60 frames per second.
The GH5.
Oh, GH5 does it?
Yeah. So okay. Your starting price is $3,000.
Okay, yeah. So $3,000 is your starting price for 4K 60 frames per second, right? Thank you for giving me. No, sorry, not 3,000. That is just the body, right?
The body.
Yes. Yeah. So $4,000 is your starting price for 4K.
I mean, like the kit lens, if you wanted to use your really awesome $3,000 camera.
No, let's just do it like a $999 lens. The $4,000 starting price for 4K 60 frames per second, and then you have a phone that does it for you, and the bit rate is actually pretty good. I mean, it's huge files. It's like 1.5 gigs for like a minute, something like that. But that's the thing that we have to, like you said, we have to kind of champion and push to say, look, we can't be bystanders anymore, or, you know, select teams and say this is great and this is not. Which is why, look, guys, when we kind of compliment Microsoft, is because we know we've seen things that they should push forward and things that they're capable of doing. And it doesn't matter whatever company it is, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's, you know, Google or Apple or even Facebook. I mean, you know, to Sam's point, Facebook can always talk about, you know, Oculus and where they are and things like that. So it's something that, you know, as an enthusiast of technology, you want not just the best, but the future forward facing tech to really come out, whether it's AI, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's voice. I mean, to me, voice is going to be the biggest thing, you know, especially when we have so many connected. I mean, already as we have how many devices that are connected in our home?
Yeah.
You know, and I have no true tally of what's connected in my home. Honestly, I don't. Yeah? I mean, no, but why can't I just ask my Google Home to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or my Cortana, or all these different things like that I have, right?
You know, Google. Okay, Google inventory.
Yeah,
I just have 5 phones in my office.
How's it going, Warren?
All right. Busy unexpectedly, but I figure I can jump in real quickly here.
Yeah, no, we've been on
a tear,
a tangent that's off topic, but we do have one more, which you can jump in, which is Uber has lost its license to practice in the UK, and they've been going through that ongoing fight. But I wanted to add one thing there. I just saw an interview with the new CEO, and he clearly pointed out it's like we're paying for our bad practices and our bad behavior. And he's listed a couple of things like getting people's health records illegally and stuff like that, which
it's a start. It's acknowledging the wrong you've done. That's a good start. That is a good start.
Yeah. So hopefully, Uber fixes a lot of these things and changes the culture in the company.
And also the way they treat their drivers.
Yeah.
Because, they have these workforce out there driving for them that they don't consider employees, and therefore those people get no benefits whatsoever and have no recourse whatsoever when something bad happens to their vehicle, which is basically their, place of business. So Uber needs to take care of these people a little more. Uber has some fundamental issue with this whole service economy that they really helped to bolster, to actually push. They have an issue with this gig economy, I should say, that they help to really push. And they need to be at the forefront of changing this. And I think if they do that, I think more cities out there would be more open to having Uber, to having Uber drivers in their cities. For this, I think it's mostly just for the London decision, I think it's really mostly just the regular London taxi drivers, the black cars that were fighting this. And they had great reason for fighting this. Basically, they have a tradition there where if you're going to be a London taxi cab driver, there is a lot of work that goes into it. You have to know London. You have to know the city. Yeah. And you get Uber drivers just coming in and they're just mapping it all over the place. They're just Google mapping it all over the place. And I can see from a quality standpoint, there is an argument to be made there. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out if London changes their decision on this. But it's definitely, the change should really start from the Uber side of things to regain that trust, the trust of both municipalities and their users.
Juan, any thoughts?
Sorry, I'm in the chat. I'm not really paying attention to anything you guys are saying at all right now. I don't care about Uber. I want to see Google's investment in Lyft pay off, and self-driving cars can't get here fast enough.
Thank you. Agree, and agree.
All you self-driving car people, man. God damn it. I hate robots. Sorry.
But yet you want Google Home to control everything, including your inventory.
I wasn't the one who called it inventory. That was Juan there.
I came in and that's what was said.
Anyway, any thoughts on that, Warren?
I think isn't this like a yearly thing with them? That they broke the license, come back like it's 3.4 million. 4.5 million people that use that thing. It's not going anywhere. They're going to negotiate.
Oh, they have to.
London's going to ask what they're going to say, hey, we want these things. Uber's going to give them what they want. They're going to reach an agreement, and then the service is going to continue to be used going forward. It all just depends, because I don't know how it is in London, because anybody I've talked to out there, I don't think my cousin that's out there doesn't use he uses Uber more often than he's used the London cabs before, so I can't attest to how the service is out there, but I do know that they're very, very strict on you knowing the entire city and knowing it very, very well, like Sam said. But I understand their arguments, but I like to see Uber and Lyft in these places stick around, because if Lyft can be there and Uber can't, what is checking Lyft's pricing? And if the cabs can't compete with them. And as long as we have that competition in there, all three of these services will try to be better for the people instead of being better for themselves. So in my case, self-driving cars, blah blah blah, whenever the hell that comes around, and it is what it is. But I think Uber and will work this out, and they like the owner is the new CEO is paying. They're paying for what they've kind of been in the past, and they have a couple, I should say more than a couple, probably about 3 or 4 years of trying to re-image themselves to be a little bit more positive in the eyes of society than they have been in the past. So I'd like to see them hopefully accomplish that, because I'd like to see all these car sharing services survive. I don't want see any of them go down. So, because if one goes down, then what's preventing the other from going down, or what checks or balances and stuff like that. So, the more competition, the better. And I've already done I can't rant on London taxi cabs because I've never taken one. But if we go in American taxi cabs, that's a whole other thing. And everybody knows my stance on those.
He's like, I'm gonna just talk about Boston for a second.
Oh Jesus! Let's not even. 3 people here have a smile on their face because when you say Boston taxi,
oh God,
no.
This is about to happen.
let's just simply put it this way:
oh God.
You have better chances with a New York taxi cab than you do in Boston.
Wow,
and that is saying something.
Although in New York, I will give New York this.
I've had
New
better
York has gotten
experience.
better with the green cabs, with the green borough taxis. They've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, but you're gonna get a better experience. Just say if you're a little on the tan side, it's a little rough for you here in Boston. I'm just gonna put it out there like that. It's just the way it is.
Just a smidge. All right, cool. Those are the topics we have for this week. Just quickly, since you joined in, I know you had. Okay? There are 2 things. One, you have 2 options. Do you want to give your thoughts on the iPhone 8 Plus that you picked up, or do you want to give your thoughts on the experience picking up the iPhone 8 Plus you had yesterday?
Oh shit! That experience is actually in the beginning of the unboxing video that I'm editing and trying to get to you guys up now. There's a reason why my unboxing video is coming now and not yesterday. It took about 3 trips to Apple Store and walking very slowly in a squared circle to finally procure an iPhone after one being told no ETA, especially when I come in at my booked appointment time, which I'm pretty sure you saw the tweet. What's the point of appointment times if you're not going to honor them and have no ETA? So I had to do something else.
I know you can take the reservation. That's not the problem.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I'll come back and then they tell me, oh no, you reserved online, but we gave your phone away because you didn't come in at the specific time.
That's just complete bullshit.
Wait, what? Wait, what? You didn't bother checking me in. Then, I proceed to walk out of the store. You fans at home don't see this. If you ever try to go watching YouTuber when they can't get the tech that they need to do what they need to do and there's some preventative in their way, watch how quick 0 to 100 happens. Watch how quick it happens. And it is like, and all the other YouTubers that are around them that are completely understanding. They know exactly what's going on. You see nothing but red. And you just go away. Just walk away. It's just the best thing to do. But I talk with Apple support. After calmed me down, I talk with Apple support. They say your phone should be there. Then I finally go back there, finally found a competent manager. And that manager said, hey, just stand in this line. I'll do you a solid. So I stood in the line. Took about maybe 35, 45 minutes until I was finally able to procure my iPhone 8 Plus.
Yeah, that sounds, besides the long drama, what I don't get is when you buy something online, every store, Target, Walmart, Best Buy, and you go to online pickup, it's a 10-minute, unless there's a line of people, like a super long line of people waiting, but you're picking your device up, nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
You drop your ID, you show your credit card if you need to, depending on the place, and then you walk out happy and joyous that you just spent $7.99 on an iPhone.
$8.49 with tax. Let's get that real. But some people don't know. So you guys know, but people don't know in the chat. I worked part-time in retail for the Yellow Tag Company for about 10 and a half years. And I can tell you, I came in. I was around the time of my Black Fridays. I've done gaming launches, all those type of things. In the era when people were waiting outside and these sort of launch and pre-order things were starting, that's when I kind of was working the retail side of things. Best Buy was like one of the first ones to really actually set up a proper way of doing this, setting up online pickups and all those things in a way where you came in and you came out, and that was just it. You didn't sit there and mutter or wait around, or no one gave you any idea on what was going on. But unfortunately, it does not seem that Apple has reached that clinical point. They can design really nice looking stores, apparently. And I mean, that's, by God, that must be the most important thing for them, because they showed it at the Apple conference. But the actual service at which to go in and get your device is just a big pain in the ass, and it shouldn't be that way. And that's probably what irritated me more, just because I have long, extensive retail experience. So dealing with that is like me halfway trying to not be that asshole customer, because I know what they're going through.
At you. Dev H said salty makes for good drama, no? With a smile.
Oh, man. Oh man, which if you want to know what Apple Store was, the Apple Boston store, which I've had some issues with going in there before too for different things, and I like.
Very true. Very true.
Huh?
No. Juan just said Apple users do not demand more.
They really don't.
What you demand.
They don't at all. Like, if you're spending $799 and you pre-ordered that shit before anyone else got in the line, you should be treated like royalty walking in the door. They're paying your paycheck, for Christ's sakes. Like, I'm not saying you got to go in there and bow at the whim. But like, seriously, I did not understand why. I was expecting to be a desk and a line that says online pickup, here's your phone, take it, and you're done. That's the whole point of pre-ordering for in-store pickup. And they completely defeat that purpose. I think primarily to bullshit lines. They make it seem like there was lines there, because I've seen everyone else that went to an Apple store and most of them didn't have lines. We had a line all day, but essentially I think that was done because the Apple store that's in Boston is like the only one, and so I think it's like their feature store. So when you're a feature store, they want to make sure you look good. So that had a line for no apparent reason at all.
So here's a question for you guys. That I saw people report yesterday that Apple hasn't started with production for the X.
Yeah, I caught that rumor too.
Yeah.
Isn't that supposed to come out next month?
Yeah, it's coming out next month.
November 4th.
Next month.
November 3rd. Pre-order starts
October 27th.
October 27th. So
okay.
they have what 5 weeks, right? 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Just enough time, I guess.
So what do you guys?
That doesn't sound right. That they haven't started production yet.
Yeah, no,
that just does not sound right.
For the demand of what they have, especially what we've seen with the launch is that you could go into the store and pick up an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. Granted, you might get some bullshit lines like Warren did, but you can
pre-order and see what happens.
But you can go in and pick up an iPhone 8, an 8 Plus. But it seems like everyone's waiting for the X and 10X, we'll call it.
I still do this. I was calling it the X all through our last podcast, and people kept like shooting in these. I at this point, I kind of just want to call it the iPhone X just to keep.
I call it the X. It's pointless.
They're talking about mid-October for production.
Yeah, they haven't started production yet. I know Samsung said the word was Samsung had delivered OLEDs to them last month or before that. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, just kind of it's a little strange.
It doesn't sound right. It just
they're going to start production.
I almost know. I don't know of any phone that produces itself 2 weeks before its actual pre-order and launch time. They're usually, from what I know, done anywhere from at the closest a month, and at best I think 2 months. I usually it's like a 1 to 2 month, because I know the designing hardware changes up to like pretty much the day it debuts. But we go to a launch event. But usually by the time you see the devices that we hand in the launch event, is pretty much what the final revision is, and they've already started production either a couple weeks before that or somewhere around that time. But unless they're trying to manufacture scarcity, I don't. That would be really strange for me unless they can produce it. Like they're thinking they can just slap these things on, and they can mass produce these at a really fast rate where they can get, you know, you know, anywhere from 200 to 300,000 of these done in a period of time. Which is
Well, again, I want to question.
But they don't know their pre-order numbers either. That's the other thing. Like they don't even know what the pre-order numbers to compare to what their inventory is. So
yeah, I don't have a lot of faith that this is completely accurate, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple were slowly tooling up production on the iPhone 10, and that it'll be okay if the first batch of these phones are only in the thousands, so that there's this constrained line that this is a desirable product. It's completely sold out. You can't get your hands on one. We're going to see one sell for $10,000 on eBay, and then they get a free
I'm looking for that,
something like that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if part of this was also
like 3. Sorry, guys, my bad.
Time to
that is $30,000.
It's the NES Classic all over again.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that totally fits Apple's MO though, is they want those lines outside the store, right? They play this game, and so I wouldn't be surprised if, for the number of new technologies, you know, how you have to vet each piece of a new screen technology that they've never used before, the assembly, the manufacturing, and then also like, if anything goes wrong with a launch iPhone 10, that will be all over the news, Galaxy Note 7 style, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they were purposely slow playing this to make this seem like a much more desired and desirable product than it would have been had they just had 10 million of them ready to sell at launch. But I can't believe that they're not building them. I have to believe that they are assembling these phones right now, probably slowly and probably not nearly to the same quantities that they've done with previous iPhones, but it doesn't make any sense to me that there's not a manufacturing line putting these things together yet.
I mean, what do you, minimum they have to have at least about 50,000 available for the launch of this to start off, I would think. You know, I can understand, you know, usually you want to be in the 6-figure number of ready to go devices while you're manufacturing whatever you need afterwards.
I mean, at least I remember, what's his name? Matt from Tech Radar said the one thing he definitely believes is that come Black Friday, that is going to be the big thing to lure people into stores. You know, iPhone X available, right? You know,
$1,000 phone. $1,000 phone is going to bring people into Black Friday.
Hey, if people look, if what we're seeing in terms of
if you've never worked a Black Friday before, nothing that's $1,000 brings anyone into the store. It's that $1,000 product that's
an Apple user.
All of a sudden, it's an Apple brings you into that store.
But I mean, remember, we're talking about Apple users who it looks, just from all indications we've seen this Friday, is that everyone's waiting for that device.
Yeah, I don't think they're waiting for that device. I think they're just not. I think they're just flat out not interested in the offerings this year because they're not that much more than what the 7 was. I know nobody wants to admit that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happened.
I think they're waiting for the 10.
And also, I felt bad because I don't know. You guys have met Rich DeMiro? He's the tech reporter for one of the TV stations out here.
No, I've seen him in. I've seen.
Yeah. So if I could pull it up, and unfortunately I'm too far away from my computer to show this off, but he actually tweeted a photo. He's like, iPhone launch day, and he's outside an Apple store, and like no one's there. They actually sent him out on an assignment to like go and cover the launch of the iPhone 8, and nobody was there. Yeah. I had no media last year for the iPhone 7. I was up at 3 a.m. to go to an AT&T store and to an Apple store to talk to reporters about the launch of the iPhone 7, and no one was calling for that this year.
I had a bunch of friends that work in retail, like AT&T and Verizon stores, and I was seeing some of the things they're posting online on their Instagram stories or whichever one it was. But they're showing like, where is everyone? There was like nobody there. They were sitting there prepared for this, and nobody showed up for it. And I think that's indicative of like, I don't think a lot of people were that impressed enough to jump again into this. I think they were so hyped up for this iPhone 10, what this thing was going to be, and all the bells and whistles it was expected to be. And when that came out, and that didn't really even top what I think people expected it to be, I think the sort of the heat, the bubble, kind of simmered down.
I think for people who are like us, those people who are really going after specs, those people who are really trying to balance some rational assessment of our products against the emotional investment in buying cool new tech, I completely agree. I just think there are so many more iPhone users out there who have been waiting out the iPhone 6 era to see what Apple would do next. And then we got the iPhone 7, which was just basically the iPhone 6S, or the 6S plus S or whatever. And now the iPhone 8 is basically the iPhone 6S. That I think the iPhone 10 will actually move a number of the other consumers who were just waiting out for some new style or some new design or something like that. I actually do think it will be a popular selling phone, even though we can all point to things that, like the unibrow. I hate the look of the unibrow. I don't like the look of
how many people are defending that damn thing too.
But that's just it. That's just it. Is like they're Team Apple. If you're Team Apple, you're going to say, well, but I can live with that as a compromise. Or actually,
it's a great design.
Like the way it looks. I think it's interesting
because you could put the battery in the cell phone indicator at the top there and get more screen real estate. I kid you not, one of my friends said that, and I was like,
like our friendship. But I think one of the things that we also forget here is that, Warren is saying that people may be underwhelmed, and you're saying people are looking towards a 10. I think you also have a large chunk of Apple users who are just a bit confused in the sense of saying, should I get the 10 or the 8? I'm not sure. Maybe I should just wait first. I don't have to rush for the 8 first and see. Because now Apple has given them options, and Apple has also given them options through a space of time. We've got 6 weeks to kind of decide.
Yeah, then I used to
and this is also complicated. Like, I've got family and friends who are still on like iPhone 5S's, and Apple has not. Apple has made a bad move, in my opinion, this generation, because those people who were huge holdouts that didn't jump on the iPhone 6 bandwagon. And God, it's so funny to be talking about this, like 3-year-old, 4-year-old phones. But for folks who didn't jump on that bandwagon, now they've got the iPhone SE, the iPhone 6S, the iPhone 7, the iPhone 8, and the iPhone 10, all as legitimate offerings from Apple in one. So you go to the iPhone product page, and it's never looked more scattered. It looks like a flea market.
They have options, Juan. They're not used to this. They get to choose more than one thing.
I know it's snarky to say, but Apple used to be really good at, you've got a MacBook and a MacBook Pro. You've got an iPhone, the iPhone, and now you've got a little iPhone and a big iPhone, and now you have a little iPhone and a big iPhone and last year's iPhone, and now you have 2-year-old iPhone, last year's iPhone, a little iPhone, a big iPhone, a little iPhone, a big iPhone, the iPhone SE, and the iPhone 10. Like, this is not.
I want you to know that was all done out of sync of audio. All that was done out of sync of audio.
Really?
Did I fall out of sync again? I don't know what's going on with the setup, because it worked on the podcast.
It was going, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna look good."
It was your hand and the speed, man.
It just went all away.
You need to let me know. I don't.
No, I think the Google AI algorithm just could not figure out the kind of levels of Apple that he was going through.
I cannot handle all of
this. I cannot. It's confusing.
It does not compute. It does not compute.
Yeah.
But I think for them to have options is a good thing. I think the problem is Apple doesn't know how to present options in a way to silo people, to silo the categories properly, to put people in to say that if you're this type of user, this is what you're looking for, this is what we want to market to you, and then sell that as a good idea. What they're doing is they're offering a bunch of phones and then but only marketing the most expensive phone to everyone. They're trying to get people on the newest and greatest, but not marketing their other phones that they have there at the end that are still good options, which is kind of defeats the purpose. That's kind of still doing the old school way of doing things without looking at that they have an opportunity to really market old hardware, original hardware, and get, certain demographics can work for it. It's like you don't see that, like the Samsungs and LGs, they don't produce in that way. They know if somebody wants something of last year's phones, people that buy those phones know of that already. They don't have to market that thing. they already know to where to go to look for those things. And in most cases, carriers take care of that when they walk into a store and they can see that there's an S6 or an S7 or well, right now there'd be an S7 and a S8 in the store and 2 variants of that. They'd be able to market that. But then they also since a lot of those manufacturers also offer brand new mid-range devices that are very similar to those high-end devices. They'll have those high-end features, but it may be in a smaller package, maybe a couple things that are not there, but present them as new devices. It helps push that as well too. And it's like, this is Apple's way of trying to compete with that, but they don't understand the marketing behind to do that. So they just got a whole bunch of phones there, and people are sitting there like, tell me what to do, Apple.
No, that's just it. And exactly to that point is Apple used to be the company that was really good at telling their customers what they wanted. So they're completely unprepared for like the consumers in my family who used to just like, oh, it's the new iPhone, I'll go buy the new iPhone. Yeah. So you look at this page and they don't know how to market a spectrum of devices. And I don't think they can. So they'll like market the iPhone 10 and they'll maybe have some videos out there on the new face scanning features and emojis and AR. All of that we'll see. And then people will go to that product page. And do you know that you're getting the iPhone with face scanning, with face unlock? Do you know if you're getting the iPhone with AR capabilities? The iPhone 7 looks just like the iPhone 8, so it should be able to do AR too, right? I mean, they are not.
Oh, they can market that properly. It takes a couple of good landing pages to be able to do that.
Well, but that's just it. Is like it.
They have enough of. They have enough. No. I can't. I'm not giving them any excuses for that. No. This is a company with billions of dollars in cash and the ability to get any damn designer they want. They can afford any damn designer marketer that they want. It's just as bad as that stupid notch. You mean to tell me you cannot find engineers that can figure this out?
So if they can't engineer the unibrow, I'm not calling it the notch. It's a freaking unibrow. If they can't out-engineer the unibrow, are you telling me that they've got the designers to magically sort how consumers are going to come with them for questions when they come to a phone landing page? This is something that I think Apple's going to have to figure out probably over the next year, is how to properly communicate what you get with your phone, because they've never had to do that.
True. This is your iPhone right here.
Well, I like to compare more to Anthony Davis.
But anyway, let's go ahead and round up. We've extended quite a bit, but yeah. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in the chat. Now we've come to that point of the show where we talk about what we have on our channel and what you can expect next week. Mr. Juan Bagnell, can you kick it off?
Sure. We're gonna have some iPhone 8 Plus stuff coming up. I'm really, like I said, I'm really digging this AR stuff. So we're gonna do a closer look at the AR capabilities. I'm gonna put it up against my Fab 2 Pro. We'll have the real audio review, which, spoiler alert, is pretty much the same as what Apple's been doing since they removed the headphone jack. So
doesn't count.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I literally want to put out a video and say, we did an iPhone 7 real audio review. Go watch that. And thank you for watching and subscribe to the channel.
I think we didn't talk about that. I forgot to mention in my own video. It didn't come with an adapter this year.
No, it did. It did. I made the mistake. It's behind the.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You have to flip over your earpods, and it's in there.
Oh, damn it!
It's like,
I think I showed that and didn't realize. Oh,
no, I ranted about it in my video. It's like this.
Well, I still ranted that. No, I still ranted didn't have a headphone jack. Having the adapter doesn't count.
Yeah, well, and also it's still lower quality than what we have with the iPhone 6. But the real camera review I'm going to be shooting this weekend, so hopefully I can have that out Tuesday or Wednesday. Gadget Guy is going to be a little quiet just because I am putting all this stuff together for Pocket now. And then later this evening, I'm going to have another recovered episode out.
Oh!
New hairstyle. Come on, what are we getting this week?
Whoa, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't think I was slicked back for this next episode.
There is. All right, this isn't tech related, but some of you might care about this. Sources: Knicks agreed to trade Melo to Oklahoma City.
Oh God.
Wow.
Ernest Cantor, Doug McDermott, and Doug McBuckets is still in the NBA, and a 2018 draft pick. the most expressive thing is I didn't know Doug McDermott was still in the NBA.
Let's not talk about Knicks and their failure, please. Anyway, Warren,
This is great success for them.
Well, I mean, yeah. What do you have in your channel? What can we expect?
iPhone stuff and iPhone stuff, iPhone 8 stuff, and iPhone 8 crap. Okay. It's just I'm going to try not rant in every video. It's really hard. They do something that's just like, I cannot believe the customer base puts up with this. And I have to say it. And I'm getting slammed on Facebook by my own friends when I'm ranting about this stuff. It's just like,
you might lose some friendships, man.
I don't care. I poke the bear all I want to until they get it done right.
I felt that breaking friendships since 2007.
Okay, and on our end, Sam actually just got something in that it's not going to be out next week, but he's testing it for a little bit.
The 8 mattress, yes.
It's got a new mattress. It's got some sleep technology in there. It's going to monitor his sleep and all that fun stuff. So yeah.
I'm really curious to see what you guys, because we're probably going to be shopping a new mattress next year. So I need something better than the lumpy thing that we've got.
Yeah.
I actually just got a new mattress this year online. I got mine from Tufted Needle.
Yeah.
What? Oh, pretty good mattress.
There are a bunch of companies. This would be our 3rd mattress that we reviewed on the channel.
You know what's cool is the tech that a lot of these companies are using was developed by the guy who invented the camera phone.
What?
Yeah, he actually after he got out of working for various phone companies, he started working on developing sleep tracking technologies.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a little bit of a geek nerd
preview there. Yeah, big preview. That's pretty good.
Changing the world.
Yeah, so there's that, and then on my end, more iPhone stuff. I am going to have an AR video. It's going to be hard recording that. I'll try because I have to probably walk around with a gimbal and not really play the game, but just show you the game because I have to use 2 hands to play it. But anyway, you'll see it. We're going to do an LTE test. We're also going to be doing.
There's something about they can't access LTE or something like that, right?
It doesn't have the antennas, and it really isn't. Look, when I said it was capped by Intel, I wasn't joking. You'll see. I've already ran some tests. It's
This is for T-Mobile. It can't do higher, or is it T-Mobile and Verizon?
All.
Because I don't think AT&T has this set up yet.
So is there not the same?
So
I actually haven't
according to iFixit, it doesn't have the antennas for it. So there's a certain amount of.
This is for LTE Advanced. Is this LTE?
No, it is very true and important. The antennas are essential.
This is LTE Advanced.
So this isn't like when there was the split between the different radio managers, like the Qualcomm and the Intel radio chipsets.
Yeah, nobody knows exactly what it is.
Okay.
So they said that, and Gadget was saying that it supports gigabit LTE, right? Okay. But then iFixit said it doesn't have the antennas for it, so it just doesn't matter.
Okay. Oh, this is for gigabit LTE. Yeah, we don't have gigabit LTE out yet.
No, there is. It's out. T-Mobile has it in certain markets. AT&T has it in certain markets as well. New York is one.
This must be a soft launch.
But but it's not. Yeah. It's not the full gigabit LTE speed. You're getting higher speeds, but not the full speeds yet. Itself. I'll put it this, like I've ran some tests, and my T-Mobile Galaxy Note 8 did 5 at 100 gigabits per second, and the average is about 70. While the iPhone average is about 50. Download speeds are around the same. Still the upload speeds are around the same at like between 30 to 50 or so.
I need to. You were just using the speed test app.
Just the speed test app. I just run.
I need to go out and try that because I'm actually using my Project Fi Sim with my iPhone 8 right now.
The weird thing is if you run both of them together at the same time, there's an interference. But you just it affects the Galaxy Note more.
But what markets is it in? No, what markets is gigabit LTE in? Now
you have to just search. I just searched Google gigabit LTE map T-Mobile. I picked T-Mobile because both SIMs are T-Mobile for me. But yeah,
try the FCC speed test.
Is it an app or
it's an app? Yeah.
Okay,
I tend to trust that more than the speed test app.
I'll try them and see how it is. But yeah, we're doing that. We're going to give you an accessories video, how to get cheap, affordable accessories for your iPhone 8, especially when you want to fast charge. You don't want to spend $84 for that bad boy. But yeah, we'll have tons of video for you guys next week. Otherwise, guys, thank you very much. Namdi, thank you very much, bro. That is my buddy from when I was like a kid. Just saying what's up to him. Just, I had to throw that out there.
Not that everyone in the chat isn't our buddies.
Yes, everybody is. I'm just saying that I've known
all buddies are special, but some
since I was like 2. I've known him since I was like 2 years old. So.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
Yeah, we're at
true story.
And also our superhero hour show is now on Mondays. Tomorrow at 10 p.m. So join us there if you want to talk comic book, all the rumors, all that fun stuff. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Definitely check out all the channels. You can check out Mr. Juan Bagnell. He is at Pocket Now, and you can find his mobile videos there. Also, you can follow him on his own private channel. It is Some Gadget Guy on YouTube. You can follow him, Some Gadget Guy, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also it is Juan Bagnell on VidMe. Yes.
You got them all, man. I'm so appreciative because I know I've been spreading out all of the over.
You might want to keep the names similar next time.
I mean, you can find me on VidMe if you search for Gadget Guy.
Yeah. So. And then, of course, Mr. Warren Bowman, and it's bw1.com on
it's here in Boston.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Is Instagram in the same place as September 39th?
Let's never go there. And of course, Sam, it is _man is part of the Booredatwork network. So you can follow him there on Twitter. And myself, it is Booredatwork, YouTube, Twitter, and all other social media outlets. Thank you very much. And always enjoy your entertainment.
Bam.